do. It's a highway that I have traveled through before, so I know all the curves, and I've come back for more. I'm alive again, I can wake up and sing. Je ne sais pas, je ne vois pas ni où je vais, ni où j'en suis. Quoi, où que je sois, quoi que je fasse, quiconque je suis à la dérive, qui m'emmène dans les doux de la nuit. Et métier de la nuit, qui est là, qui ne me quitte pas depuis que tu es parti. C'est fini pour moi la vie en rose sans toi. Pictures of us when on foreign shores I am very truly yours I am, but if inclined to play I am, sweetheart, that's the way I am. When in Spain, for reasons I don't explain, I remain enjoying a brew. Don't deplore my fondness for fonder door. You know how a fonder door can lead to a few. And baby, when in Rome, I do as the Romans do. And when Javier looked at me, you know, with those eyes of his, I felt compelled to sing this song. north and south and east and west of your life. I have only one request of your life, that you spend it all with me. All the seasons and the times of your days, all the nickels and the dimes of your days, let the reasons and... All right, well, I'm getting verklempt listening to Stephen Brinberg rather, Stephen Brinberg impersonating Barbara Streisand. It's like I think I'm hearing Bryn Sand.
That's a good combination of our names. Yeah.
We'll have to remerge.
Streisberg.
Streisberg, we love it. That's my guest tonight. Welcome to Mia's World. We're just having a great time here. This is Mia's World, and we're back. And thank you to my wonderful audience and wonderful engineer editor Jade Zabrich. My guest today is the wonderful Stephen Brinberg, who is a singer and actor. He's performed all over the world, and I mean everywhere, performing Simply Barbara. He's just got an ear and a voice and a mind that's amazing to me. I just cannot comprehend how you do this. And he will be performing Sunday, April 24th at 54 Below in honor of Barbara Streisand's 80th birthday. But before we get into, so welcome, Stephen.
Thank you.
Welcome to my world. Welcome to Mia's World. Before we get into all of that, I just want to tell you, there's a few fun facts that we start off Mia's World with, but I do want to say something. I am wearing red and white, which is the colors of my alma mater, Cornell University, in honor of April 27th, actually 1865, the anniversary of the charter that actually established Cornell. So I figured I was wearing red and white, and then I said, I think there's an intuitive connection. And then I remembered April 27th was the date. So hail, all hail Cornell. Ezra Cornell, the founder, was famous for his quote, "I would found an institution where any person could find instruction in any study." And I mean anything from anthropology to political science to musical theater, agricultural economics. I started off doing a radio show on apples. And it's funny because Ezra Cornell's quote is, "Yesterday, I staked off the ground on the hill for an orchard. I want to get 1,000 apple trees a growing." So he was a naturalist as well as a real deep thinker. And thank you, Cornell, for my education. Anyway, a few fun things, trivia for April 18th, which is today. It's a little bit cold in New York. It's April, you know, crazy moody, but we love it. We love moody and we love music, and that's why we love Stephen Brinberg. So here are some birthdays of April 18th. 1882, the British conductor Leopold Stokowski. American jazz guitarist Tony Mottola, 1918. 1922, Barbara Hale, if anybody remembers Perry Mason, yes. Della Street. 1930, Clive Revill, the New Zealand actor and singer. Wasn't he in Oliver?
Yeah, so he was great. Very
I knew you would
guy.
Know, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Because I couldn't find it. I said, I know Stephen will know.
He was Fagin, yes.
Right. 1939, Glenn Hardin, rock and roll country keyboard player from the Crickets. 1947, the actor James Woods was born. 1974, the jazz singer Madeleine Peyrou. 1979, Kourtney Kardashian. And 1955, German-born physicist and Nobel laureate Alfred Einstein, theory of relativity, died of an abdominal aortic aneurysm. Hard to believe. April 18th in history, 1906, the San Francisco earthquake, which killed nearly 4,000 people and destroyed 75% of the city. 1924, Metro, Goldwyn, and Louis B. Mayer company forged to form Metro Goldwyn Mayer, MGM, famous Judy Garland, right?
Yeah.
1934, the first washateria, which was a laundromat, opened in Fort Worth, Texas. Thank you, laundromats. In 1964, April 18th, Ford Mustang was introduced. In 1930, the BBC news announcer announced that there is no news at 20:45 News Bulletin. He played all music. There was no news. 1977, the musical review Side by Side by Sondheim opened at Music Box for 390 performances. And I know we're going to talk about Sondheim because, again, yes, Stephen Brinberg did an amazing event with Sondheim. 1988, Barbra Streisand recorded Warm All Over.
And in 1994, Arsenio Hall announced he would end his show in May. And I was on that show, Talking Backwards, in 1987.
Wow.
Don't get me started. In April 18th holidays, it's Boston Marathon Day. It's Dingus Day, which has to do with pussy willows and water in Poland and the Ukraine. It's International Amateur Radio Day. It's International Day for Monuments. It's National Animal Crackers Day. We know Barbara sang about animal crackers in
Yes.
my soup. It's National Lineman Appreciation Day, National Newspaper Columnist Day, and Pet Owners Independence Day, and Piñata Day. Love those piñatas. Okay, and for the limerick of the week, because we've done weekly news limericks, rhyming the news to turn the gloom into bloom. So here's this week's rhyming wrap up of the news. Will Elon Musk buy Twitter? He's added a touch of glitter. He gets lots of glares, but he's got the most shares. Is he sounding a bit bitter? He will not join the board, but he's pulled out a silent sword to put down the giant, to be more defiant and cut the censorship cord. What's up with Vladimir Putin? He's pillaging and looting. No heart, no brain, attacking Ukraine. I think I'll go get a fig Newton. And now the American nation is suffering inflation, a 40-year high. Don't ask Biden why, it's no cause for celebration. Is Bennifer a thing? Is J-Lo back in swing? Are Affleck and Jen a new kind of zen? It's way beyond a fling. Big birthday for funny girl. Her voice is like a pearl. Barbara Streisand turns 80. She's quite a grand lady. Hey, gorgeous, take a twirl. Happy Animal Crackers Day. So sweep those crumbs away. This sweet animal farm still holds its charm. Now where is my Chardonnay? And I just need to tell you what we heard in the music medley. We started with one of my favorite Brazilian singers, Alexia Bontempo, from her Suspiro album, I'm in Love Again, written by Cy Coleman, Bill Schluger, and Peggy Lee. Then my favorite jazz pianist, Alan Broadbent, whose birthday is April 23rd. Happy birthday, Alan. I Fell in Love Too Easily, a gorgeous, gorgeous ballad, the Jules Stein classic. Beautiful, Alan Broadbent, happy birthday. Then The Way We Were, we got a little montage to entice you. Stephen Brinberg singing The Way We Were on Australian TV on the mornings show. And then the great Cy Coleman, Carolyn Lee tune, When in Rome, one of my absolute favorites from the early Barbra Streisand albums. And finally, Stephen Brinberg in Barcelona, singing What Are You Doing the Rest of Your Life, with Alan and Marilyn Bergman lyrics, Michel Legrand music. How could you beat that? So now, welcome again, Stephen Brinberg. Welcome to Mika's World. So great to have you. I mean, I don't know what you have not done. You toured everywhere with your show, Simply Barbara. You've done 2 CDs, Live in London and Simply Barbara. You've gone, I don't know where you haven't been. You've been to Glasgow, Sydney, Melbourne.
Haven't been to the Scandinavia yet. That's on my bucket list.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'd love to go there.
Yes, absolutely. You toured with Marvin Hamlish for 11 years with him and his symphony orchestra. Yes. You played Stephen Sondheim birthday concert at the Library of Congress. I can't even imagine you performed.
It was amazing, yeah.
How did that happen? Well, we'll go back and forth in time.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, he was like a fan of mine, and when they put together this concert, it was actually a Sondheim concert, but it wasn't Sondheim songs. It was called Songs He Wished He'd Written. And on his list was When in Rome. And when the guy at the Library of Congress realized that was on the list, he knew me, and he knew Sondheim knew me, and he said, oh, we should get him to sing When in Rome, because Barbara's recording of that is like the most famous one. And that's how it happened. It was kind of amazing to do it. It's a really small theater there, actually, at the Library of Congress. And
it seems large when you watch it on TV, you know. Like,
yeah, no, it's different than all the other ones in the Kennedy Center.
Right.
In fact, the Library of Congress, I think, doesn't have that many concerts because they didn't have, at least back then when I did it, reverb, which is like the most important sound effect that I need when I sing. So I was a little bummed that they didn't have it, but it was such a fun night. I mean, Nathan Lane was the host, and Audra McDonald was in it, and Maren Maisie and Deborah Monk, and it was great. I was like the only one I hadn't heard of, you know. I know.
They'd heard of you.
Yeah.
So when did you know in your brain or your heart that you wanted to perform?
Well, it's funny. I wasn't one of the, I mean, I was totally obsessed with show business and music as far back as I can remember, but not specifically with performing. Just I knew I wanted to do something in it. And I was always very shy. And I even have tapes of myself as a kid where my father is trying to get me to sing. I'm like 3 years old and I keep saying no. Like I don't want to do it. So I thought, given that my interest was in this, but my nature was not extrovert at all, I would be behind the scenes. And I always was writing and doing things like that. And I thought when I was 10, I like directed all these plays in the summer with all these kids at summer camp. And I thought, well, I'll be a director because I don't know any other 10-year-olds who want to be a director. That must be easy to do, until I got older and realized, gee, every movie and play only has one director, but it has a whole lot of performers. And it was actually easier to get into performing than to be behind the scenes, I found.
Wow.
So,
So you grew up in New Rochelle?
no, in Riverdale, in the Bronx.
Riverdale.
Yeah.
Riverdale.
We would go to the movies in New Rochelle and to dinner, Westchester was always our, go-to.
Right.
Really before Manhattan, we'd go
Really?
to Westchester. Well, it was closer to Westchester.
Right. Of course. Of
Yeah.
course. And we always called Manhattan, when you grew up,
The
did you call
city.
Manhattan the city?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like nobody said we're going to Manhattan, right? We're
No,
going to the
no.
city.
Yeah. It was the city. That's
Right.
true.
Right? The Bronx
Yep.
is the city, Queens is the
Yep.
city, but Manhattan was the
Yeah.
city.
Manhattan is the city.
Right. So so were your parents, like, were they supportive when you finally decided to go for it? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, they
what
loved
did your
show
parents do?
business. They,
What did
well,
what
my parents had a shop, a gift shop, and so I was working there when I was a little kid. And again, they were pretty much interested in show business too. So we'd go to shows together, and then we sold picture frames, and I would fill the frames with autographed pictures of stars I had written to. So there, right in the frame, is a picture of Liza and Patti LuPone, and and then customers would buy the frame, and we would have to say it doesn't come with the picture. That picture of Alexis Smith is not for sale, you know. So and I'm sure they wanted me to do something more secure, obviously, but it was also clear this is like a calling, and there was no way I wasn't gonna, do this. So they kind of accepted it, and they loved, being in the audience.
Did they come to a lot of your shows?
Oh yeah, they came to like every show
That's
while they
fantastic.
were here. Yeah.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
I have one sister, and she actually now lives in Florida, and she sort of manages to get me down there every year to do some kind of show, like as a fundraising thing. And so it's great. It's sort of continuing the family support. It's
She
nice.
did not become a performer, I assume.
No, she didn't. She always was the first one to say she couldn't sing and didn't have any talent in that department. But she's very, very smart. She went to the Bronx High School of Science, and very, very smart person.
Whole family, I'm sure, has those genes. So where did you study formally? Did you study voice formally? I know you eventually went to the new school.
No, it's funny. I always say I studied with Barbara Streisand by listening to her. I took a voice class in junior high school, and then I didn't take any voice lessons until I got to the new school. And just as a lark, I took a singing class. And up until that point, I was always singing along to whatever albums I had in the voice of the person I was listening to, whether it was Barbara or Julie Andrews or Shirley MacLaine or anybody. I didn't know my own voice. And then when I took the singing class, I suddenly discovered my own like deep male voice. And I was like, wow, I really like this. And I think I sound pretty good. And that's when I decided to pursue actually, performing. I mean, I had taken drama classes, acting classes before the new school at NYU, and I was actually in a couple of plays. The teacher, the professor, I had a wonderful guy. He actually cast me in a couple of off-Broadway plays.
Nice.
but nothing musical. So it was like, oh, okay. It was very interesting how it all evolved.
Did you enjoy the dramatic as opposed to the
Oh,
music?
very much. Yeah. Yeah. I would have been happy if I could just work acting as much as I adore and live for music. Acting is pretty exciting too, and you don't have to strain your voice as much. Not as much
Right.
as I strain it singing in a place that's not normal. I always say, I know I'm doing Barbara, but my throat probably just thinks I'm going, wow, wow, wow. It's
Well,
it's tough.
well, I would love you to break into some kind of song at this very
Oh,
moment.
okay.
Feeling a song coming on, if you
Which
wouldn't
what
mind.
should I sing?
Oh my God, you have such a
You mentioned today was the day she recorded Warm All Over.
yes.
And that was with who I know him, Rupert Holmes, the composer. He didn't write it, but he arranged that recording and a bunch of other recordings from that session. And that didn't turn up until she released a box set years later. So I could sing a couple of lines of that. Let's see if I can find it. A
Sure.
key. All right, let's see.
Do you have a
Um,
little keyboard in your apartment?
no, I actually had a piano for years here because I played piano when I was young. I played in recitals and everything. And then I realized I didn't ever like play it. And, in New York, space is an issue. So I sold the piano. And then the first thing I did after I sold it was I went to a studio and booked time so I could play the piano. Crazy. Let me think. All right, let's see. Warm all over, warm all over. Every time whatever the words are, you get me warm all over. I remember when I first heard that, it was like, oh my God, this is gorgeous. How could they have not released it? But that's a Frank Lesser song from The Most Happy Fella.
And a lot of people, including myself, are not that familiar with that song.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, it's beautiful. That's a beautiful score and a beautiful show. Oh, and
well,
it's rarely done because it's complicated. It's a huge cast and a big orchestra. And
well,
um,
what I find with Barbara Streisand from from growing up, I used to listen to, of course, the Peter Matz arrangements of Call Her
oh, the
May Barbara
best.
and
Yeah.
Simply Barbara. And those albums and those songs, and I know you do quite a number of them,
Yes.
still to me are the best out of
Yep.
everything she's done. I mean, I
They're
just
timeless. I mean, I was working today on the show and we were going through some of those Matt's arrangements, like of Much More, thinking about putting it into the show this week. And I don't know that we will, but we were thinking about it. So we went through the whole, I'd like to swim in a clear blue stream where the water is icy cold. It's just so beautiful, the strings,
yeah.
and my pianist is so brilliant.
Who is
I
the
always
pianist?
say, in his Christopher Denny, in his two capable hands, he makes it sound like literally an orchestra.
What's
It's
the name
wonderful.
of that song?
Much more.
Much more.
It
Much
was from the
more.
Fantastics, and I think it's on her
Yes,
first album or her second album, probably the first one.
that is
Um,
a gorgeous song. Can you sing a
oh yeah,
little bit more of it? I just love that
let's
song.
see. Just once, just once, just once before I'm old. See, Barbara back then, she guided, I'm sure, by Peter Matz and also Barry Denon, who was her early supporter, who I met years later in LA. Um, by the time she did those Broadway albums, the label famously didn't want to do it. They said nobody wants this or whatever. So all the songs she chose were like really famous songs from really famous shows. And in those early albums, there's lots of obscurities. I mean, The Fantastics was a famous show, but it wasn't like The Sound of Music.
Right,
And
right.
she did like 5 songs from The Fantastics. And I think what was funny was she auditioned for the show and she never got cast in it. And I think every time she saw the composer, she said, I wanted to be in that show and you didn't cast me. She also wanted to be in The Sound of Music. And
Oh
there's
my
a
God.
famous, you can probably find it online, an old resume of hers from
Wow.
like the late 50s or 60s. And she wrote in her own handwriting, can play Liesel. And somebody else wrote over that, no, because, she didn't look
It,
like a Liesel.
no, it doesn't look like
Or
the
like
girl
the
in the
girl in the
Fantastic.
Fantastics.
Right, right.
She
What
wasn't
about,
the conventional,
yeah,
looking.
well, another favorite of mine is How Does the Wine Taste?
Oh my God, that is one of the first numbers I did with Marvin. when I
Oh,
did, I
Marvin
have
Hamlish.
an audio of it somewhere. When
Oh,
I did the first concerts with him, he said, I want you to do like 3 numbers with the orchestra, and you can do any 3 you want. Like, and he'll arrange them for 80 musicians. So I thought, well, I could do People or the really famous ones. And then I thought, no, I want to do How Does the Wine Taste? That was one. And Summer Me, Winter Me, which is just beautiful. And what was the third one? I think the third one was You Don't Bring Me Flowers. But How Does the Wine Taste? Oh my God, just magnificent.
and you,
And that, again, that's from a totally flop show that closed out of town starring Robert Preston. It was about Pancho Villa. And if she hadn't rescued that song from obscurity, we wouldn't know it. And I'm such a fan of musicals. There's so many more where that came from. If I had like produced her recent Broadway albums, I would have had a lot more. I mean, she had a couple on the last one. Like she had a Marvin song from Smile that she sang, I think, with Hugh Jackman. And then she sang, 50% from Ballroom, which is a fantastic song. But
the
there's so many
obscure
great songs
voices.
like that that people don't know and
Yeah,
should.
I mean, do you think she chose them? These pretty
It's
obscure songs?
funny. I mean, she sort of said she never listens to music, like not never mind her own, just like anybody's. So I think everybody close to her chooses the stuff or runs it by her, I'm sure. But I don't think she's a wealth of knowledge about that. She's more interested, I think, in art and in politics. It's fascinating, given what she does so well.
Can you maybe sing a few bars for me of how, and for everybody else, of How
Let's
Does
see.
the Wine Taste?
Okay, let's see. How does the wine taste? Does it sting your lips? You need like the maracas. What does the fruit like just beyond my fingertips? It's so funny. I thought of
I
like,
think that's her key. I think that's
yeah,
the exact
probably. Well, I sing most everything in the keys she sang in, whether it's the 60s or the 70s or the 80s. It's funny. When I was on years and years ago in the early part of the show, I was on the Rosie O'Donnell show. And most of what I had to do was cut because Meatloaf, rest in peace, he
oh,
ate up like 3
too much
segments
time.
and put his tongue in her mouth and she got in a bad mood. And so among the things that were cut and not done, they were holding up Barbara albums, and she and I were supposed to like just hum a bit from
Uh,
each one. And they would hold up one and I remember her saying, I don't know that one. And then they go to the next one, I don't know that one. And I'm like, I could probably hum or sing anything from any of those earlier albums. Maybe
right.
not the later ones as much, but the
Oh,
earlier ones that when I started collecting her albums, like as a teenager, she had already been around a long time. So each week I would save my allowance and buy another one till I had collected all of them. And they were just the gold standard. That first 10 years, you can't beat any of them.
no.
Any of them. Each one is a gem.
Absolutely. And I used to listen for some reason, we had record players in the 60s
Yeah.
and 70s, and I would
It was
listen
special. You put it
over and
on and
over. That
yep.
needle went dead.
Yep.
Clopin, Clopin.
Oh my God. That's
Another one.
gorgeous.
Can
Yep.
you do it? Can you
Let's see.
retrieve that? I know it's not fair to do this.
Along, Clopin, Clopin, saying he's gone, he's gone, he's gone. That whole album, I'm told, some of them are in French and some of them are in English. And I've
Yes.
always been told that she recorded the entire thing in French,
Really?
but no one's been able to find it. And if I ever perform properly in Paris, I performed there like at a party for my friend Julie Wilson when she turned 90.
Oh,
Bless her.
wow.
But I've
Oh,
never done a proper run in France. And if I ever do, I sang in the French Alps.
that's
I did
something.
that. Yeah, at a ski week. But I've never like performed a proper run. And if I ever do, and my pianist speaks French fluently, I would love to sing some of those songs phonetically in French, like when she sang Free Again in French. That's just
Oh, and
magnificent. And evergreen in French too, actually.
Free Again. That's
Oh,
right. God.
see, I can't even pronounce it, but I have to read it phonetically. But I love that song. When the first show I did, I guess it was last year on Mother's Day. That was my first performance after the shutdown, and my opening number was Free Again, and it was all about
Perfect.
no
Okay.
more masks, da 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 da. And then by the time I did a show a few months later, I had to take that out because we were backtracking. We weren't free again. So I won't sing that again until we're completely free again.
Oh, but you will.
Soon, I hope.
And,
Yes, because
and
that's a great song.
it's
Great
magnificent.
song.
Did she also do Soon It's Gonna Rain?
Oh yeah, which is also from the Fantastics.
Fantastics,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. She did Soon It's Gonna Rain, much more. Oh, what's the other one from the Fantastics? She did just a smidgen of Try to Remember in
Uh-huh.
that circus medley where you
Uh-huh.
hear Animal
Right,
Crackers.
right.
I've done that whole medley in the show
Oh my
before
God.
to a
And
track actually. So
wow.
it's like wild singing that whole thing.
And
Look at that
what about
face. Oh my,
those TV specials? The Color Me
those
Barbara?
are amazing. I mean, like the
Priceless.
whole idea that all you needed was her and the
Right,
orchestra. You didn't even need a guest because
right.
who was as good as her? Nobody. I
But
mean,
she was on I think I remember she was a guest on the
oh,
Judy
Judy
Garland,
Garland, yes.
right?
And then on another amazing appearance is on Burt Bacharach's special,
Ah, I
where
did
she
not know that.
sang. She had recorded "One Less Bell, A House Is Not a Home," which is one of my favorites, as a duet with herself, and that's on the special. And then she sang a song that he wrote just for her called "Be Aware," also on the special. And they sang "Close to You" together. It's
Oh, wow.
fantastic,
Oh my
absolutely
gosh. I
fantastic.
have to look that up on YouTube.
Oh, absolutely. Just look up Barbara and Burt Bacharach. You'll
Oh
die.
my God.
You'll
So
plot.
when you perform, Stephen, I mean, you do solos, you do duets, and you've done stuff with orchestras. Do you have a preference, like for the solo?
Well, I have to say, when I was with Marvin, to sing with like 80 musicians behind you, it's like being shot out of a cannon, especially if you love music as much as I do. Because I'm the type, I'll just see a musical and I start weeping when I hear just a few notes can make my eyes fill up. That's how tuned in I am musically. So
Sure.
singing with just a piano is wonderful, and singing with a trio is, just singing is great.
And
It's, I
how
love
did
it.
first of all, I have so many questions. It's like they're tumbling out of my brain.
That's
How do
fine.
you find the right accompanist? Because that's a key to your performance.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. Well, the companies I work with now, he's really the first one I ever worked with. I've worked with others through the years, but he's been my primary one since I started doing this. And he's amazing. He's sort of a theatrical background. His mom was in South Pacific on Broadway and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. In
Uh,
fact, and Guys and Dolls. His parents met because she was in Guys and Dolls. So he like owes his life to Guys and Dolls.
uh,
She was a great lady, his mom, and a voice teacher. And so he's just a natural musical, genius. I mean, he'll start doodling on the piano. I'm like, what's that? He goes, oh, it's nothing. I'm like, it's beautiful. You should do something with it. Marvin was like that too. The rehearsal, I'm like, what's that? He goes, oh, just something I'm fooling around with. I'm like,
sketches,
save it, write it down. You're
yeah,
Marvin.
pearls. How did you meet Marvin Hamlish to begin
It's
with?
so funny. I had written him a letter about, I forget why I asked him a question, I think even before I did Barbara, and he answered me and said, when he saw my address, he said, I used to live around the corner, and he gave the address where he grew up on the West Side. Then when I released my first CD, as like a lark, I thought, maybe I'll just send this to Marvin Hamlish. And it had already been out, I think, a couple of years. But I sent it to him, and he called me, and he
Really?
said, I got your CD, it's terrific, and I'm thinking of having a bit in her next show where we would bring you on.
Oh my gosh.
And he said, I don't know if you'd be on stage with her, but maybe she would say something like, I'm so busy, sometimes I wish there were two of me, and then you'd appear. He said, so this was New Year's Eve, her
Oh my
not her
God.
first tour, her second farewell tour, 2000. So he said, can you get me like 10 copies of your CD, leave it at my building? I'm like, sure, absolutely. So I sent him the CDs. Then a day goes by, and then I hear from Bette Midler's people saying she's doing a show also on New Year's Eve, and they need someone to play Barbara in a bit. And I said, well, if Barbara doesn't need me, I'd love to go work with Bette. And then the payoff was neither one happened. And Marvin said
Uh,
everybody loved my CD, but the show was literally only like 2 weeks away, and it was already built around this little girl who played young Barbara, and it would be
Right.
overkill. And he
Okay.
said, but I really think you're great, and I hope to work with you soon. And
Wow.
like a month later, he called me, and that was the first symphony concert I did, and it was with him and Barbara Cook
Ugh,
in Pittsburgh and in Washington, D.C. And I got to hang
unbelievable.
out with her, and it
Barbara
was
Cook.
amazing. Oh, she was lovely. She was so nice. We would go, she would take us to eat after each show. What a
Sweet.
great lady.
How
Wonderful
amazing.
lady.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. So then you toured with him, right?
Yeah, off and on for 11 years. And we did a bunch of shows with Julie Budd, who was wonderful. And
Yeah.
what's so ironic is the last shows that I did with him that last year were the most I did with him in 1 year. So he was very impulsive. So we finished the show with Julie Budd in wherever we were, Milwaukee. And he goes, "What are you doing next weekend?" I'm like, "Nothing." He goes, "You want to come and sing a song in Pasadena?" He was like the head of the Pasadena Pops. I'm like, "Sure." So in like 2 days, his travel agent called me. I'm out there. And actually, the first one was at Wolf Trap in DC. Then the next one was in Pasadena. And we had been in Seattle, I think, that year. So the last show I did with him was in Pasadena. And a year to the day after that show is when he died.
Oh,
And what was so amazing was
uh,
they gave him like a hybrid car. You know, he was so down to earth. When we checked into a hotel in DC, he said, "I'm going to the bathroom, check me in." So I'm checking him in, and the clerk says, "How do you spell that?" H-A-M. You know, they don't know who he is. They're young.
right, right.
And he didn't get upset or anything.
Yeah.
And then nobody was there to help him with like his bags. And I'm like, "I'd help you, but I have like a backpack trouble." He went, "No, don't be silly, you know." But in Pasadena, they gave him, he didn't want a driver. He had like a hybrid car, and he was trying to figure out how to use it. And he um, drove me to where the show was. And then because Pasadena, the Pops, it's outdoors, it's the summer, you know, so there's no proper dressing rooms. And he knew I have to get done up like
Right,
Barbara.
right.
You know, at the end of all
Exactly.
his shows, I would get undone and he'd bring me back on so they could see what I was really like. But I had to get done. So he said, "Well, they have me changing in a trailer, so you can change in there." So I'm in his trailer getting made up. His nephew was there. And by then I'm all made up, and he was having problems with like his tie or something. He said, "Could you just fix this tie?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, where's the camera?" I'm fussing with his tie, dressed as Barbara with my nails on.
Oh my God.
Um, it was great. I mean, one time before I went on stage with him in the Wings, just before he walked out, he went, "Barbara, I want a raise," and then he walked on stage because he was so funny. He was like a comedian. I told him he should have had his own talk show.
Yes, and he probably could have.
Great. Yep. Well,
What-
in the 70s, he was on like Hollywood Squares and the Match Game. He was a real celebrity
Yeah.
when composers were not, because he
I know.
was so funny and personable.
But I
You know,
love that he was so down to earth and not a diva type, you know. And
no, he was. I mean, I've heard, stories from people that worked with him that had some issues. I mean, what great artist doesn't? But
right.
with me, he was, and his wife always told me that he really loved me a lot. So
Oh, how
it
sweet.
was a big loss when he died.
I know, I know. Way
Such a
too
great
young.
guy.
Um,
68. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
that's so young.
What color do you do your nails for Barbara? Do you switch or do you?
Well, they're press-on nails, which are
Yeah.
which are hard to get. When I started doing the show, they still made Lee press-on nails. In fact, that was on my poster, Nails by Lee. And
Uh-huh.
Lee went the way of the dinosaur. She must have retired to Florida or something. And now the ones they have, I don't like as much, but they're clear, no polish.
Okay,
You know,
no color.
just it's hard getting them long enough though, because the nails are so expressive. I could do
Well,
a show in a tuxedo and nails.
well, can you
That's
do
the
a little
last
bit
thing.
of your arm and hand movements? Because I
Yeah,
love
it's
what,
just sort of, she's touching the hair and then holding the mic like this, and it's kind of her. She has beautiful hands and beautifully expressive hands, and
so
you see them in all her movies. You really
yeah,
do.
exactly. And I mean,
Beautiful.
what did you do to prepare? I mean, did you watch her incessantly, like over?
It's funny, when I started doing the show, I did not go back and watch anything because it was all in
In,
my head. And
uh-huh.
after I was doing it a while, once in a while, I would watch something, or especially when she had something new, of course I would watch it. But like I would find that I was already doing things instinctively, some of which she had done, without even thinking about it. Like, doing the hair with the other hand, touching that, like my poster looks like that. And certain things that were just felt natural to me. And then in more recent years, she would do things that I did, like, so it's
Have
just
you
sort of,
met her? Have you met her?
no, I haven't met her. I've met and become friendly with just about everybody close to her, really, other
Yes,
than like her
yes.
husband or her son. But I've met everybody else, and
Yeah.
they all have great stories, and it's great.
But aside from your having her voice in your head and your brain and your soul, you definitely, I've seen your movements and your hand movements are
Yeah.
so visually representative of
Well,
reflect.
and I also think it's again the similar background. A nice Jewish boy is playing a nice Jewish girl, and that's a lot of it. It's
Yep.
authentic. I've seen some people doing her. Like whether they're lip syncing or whether they're male or female, and they'll say like "oi they," and I'm like, anybody who's actually Jewish knows it's "I," like UHEE. You know, I think
Right.
even yeah, it's just it. I don't know. That's
That's
how you can
very
tell the
funny.
imposters.
That
You know,
is very funny. Yeah, I
yeah,
know. Well,
it's just an authenticity.
what about Yentl? Have you done any songs from Yentl?
Oh yeah, I always do something from Yentl.
The
In
Papa
fact,
song?
I've done Papa, yeah, and I do. I think
Uh,
in this show we're going to do The Way He Makes Me Feel. And one
oh,
of my guests in the show this week is Tova Felchu, who created Yentl, and she is planning to sing something from Yentl.
oh,
So
talk
it's kind of
about,
like
let's, yeah,
perfect.
that's fantastic. Let's talk
Yeah,
about that. So 54
yeah.
Below, which is on West 54th Street in Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan.
Yes, right
It's
next to
wonderful.
54 above.
I'm sorry.
Right next to 54 above, Studio 54.
Yeah,
It's the basement.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
legendary. It's a great
Yes.
place.
And you are doing this show in honor of Barbara Streisand's 80th birthday, which is
Mhm.
April 24th, correct?
Yes, yep, it sure is. Same
And,
same birthday as Shirley MacLaine,
oh, interesting.
only she's turning 88, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They used to
Like the
celebrate
Kings.
together. I don't know if they
Oh
still do, but
wow. So tell me about the guests at your shows or at this particular show.
yeah, well, normally I usually have one guest who sings a song in a duet with me, but because this is a special occasion, we're having so far four guests. So
Wow.
we have Tova Felchu, wonderful actress, singer, um, and Ramona Mallory, who is the daughter of Victoria Mallory from all the Sondheim shows like Follies and A Little Night Music. And Ramona was in the Little Night Music with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Angela Lansbury. I have a Catherine Zeta-Jones story I can tell you
Oh, I'd
about
love
me.
it.
And then we have this lady named Sharon Azraeli, who is an opera singer and a producer and a cantor.
Really?
Wonderful lady I just discovered.
Oh,
And then a young man named Spencer Gonzalez, who's a new up and coming singer. So,
wow.
and
So
I'll
do you
sing a duet
find
with
all the
him.
people? Do you choose the people?
Yes, usually. I mean, for all these years, we've had so many people, doing the show in New York for so long. So many people from Broadway on their night off or in between shows. I mean, Audra McDonald sang with me, and Billy Porter and Jonathan Groff, and oh my God, the list goes on. Michelle Park. I've even had, playwrights singing with me.
Really?
Christopher Durang sang with me, and
Ah,
Charles Bush.
that's
Pat
that.
Suzuki, remember her? She sang with me. I Enjoy Being a Girl.
Oh my
I've had
God. Yes.
quite a impressive list. And at one time I used to have them all on like tape, at least audio. It would make a great, collection, all those
Absolutely.
duets. In
Yes.
London as well,
Or a great
Um,
podcast here.
yeah.
Yeah, let's hear the Catherine Zeta-Jones story. Why
Oh,
not?
this was a great story. I was performing at a party, a birthday party on the East Side in this lovely venue. And Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael Douglas were there. Lauren Bacall was there. Phyllis Newman, Joan Rivers, Debbie Allen. It's amazing. So I sang a couple of songs, and then I went to the little dressing room, which was really like the kitchen after, to sort of get out of my costume. And then Catherine Zeta-Jones walks in, and she goes, "Oh my God, you're unbelievable. I want to bring you to Wales to sing for my mother and father." I'm like, "Oh my God, I'd love to," And I handed her a CD, And then I said, this was before she did a little night music. And I said, you should really come to Broadway. Because, she started out as a singer and dancer in London. She was in 42nd Street and other musicals, Annie. And I said, you should do MAME or something like that. And she went, oh, I'd love to. We'll see. And then a year later, she does a little night music. So she was really so nice. And so was her husband. Like as he was leaving, he gave me like a thumbs up,
Oh,
So that was an exciting one. And Joan Rivers, of course, was just wonderful.
was
Lauren
she?
Bacall was kind of like stone faced.
I've heard.
I looked at her and I went, hi, Mom. Because, she played her mother in a movie. Got nothing.
Nothing.
I don't think she had a great sense of
Chorus
humor.
line, nothing.
Yeah.
Let's see. I also wanted to know, when you write a show, always interested in the creative process, of course. Do you script it? Do you improvise? How does this?
It's funny. I sort of write it as I go along. So I never write a printed script. Although when I did play in Barcelona, I had to kind of write one because they had to use subtitles and translate all of my dialogue. Although Chris also speaks Spanish, so when I ad-libbed from the script, he would tell the audience that in Spanish. But when I do it, sometimes I write it literally on stage. I'll think of something funny. Like I was just in London and a joke that I'd been telling all about the various versions of A Star Is Born, from the original to Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
And on stage, I thought of one additional funny bit that's now permanent because I just thought of it there and now I'm keeping it.
Right.
So, and stories come and go and songs come and go. And I just change the show all the time. So it's never dull for me or hopefully the audience. Whatever's happening to her, it goes right in the show. And there's such a big well of music to choose from. And of course, all the music that I often sing that she's never sung. Like in this show, I sing a Sondheim song she never did from Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. And I sing Till There Was You from The Music Man, which she's never sung. A couple of times I've sung songs that she never sang. And then she did. And then when she did it, it was like almost note for note what I had imagined she would do with it.
Really?
Like she sang at the ballet after I recorded it.
Really?
I recorded it before her. There were a few others like that. I think You're Gonna Hear From Me is one of them. Because all the people that love Barbara have their wish lists of oh God, I wish she'd sing this, I wish she'd sing that. She says one of her upcoming albums will just be songs I always wanted to sing.
Oh,
So I hope she takes some requests.
Does she ever in her concerts?
I think she does. Yeah. I mean, I think she's open to, she's more like the first thing I remember saying to Marvin was, so when you do these concerts with her, does she just come in and say, this is what we're doing and this is how it's going to be? He said, not at all. She totally wants to collaborate and wants to know what you're doing. And it's funny because when I put my shows together, I meet the pianist and I come in and I'm sort of like that. I come in and I have an entire list and the whole thing in my head, but I will listen to his suggestions and ideas and everything. But I start with knowing what I want,
Well, yeah, you have the general idea.
Yeah, because it's almost like it's like putting together her show. Like I always say, my dream is to do a residency in Las Vegas and do one of those 3-year Celine Dion, Bette Midler runs that Barbara would never be interested in, but I'd be interested in,
Of course.
And, she could direct it. That would be great. She once said she loves putting together her shows. She just doesn't like doing them. If someone else could do them. Well, here I am.
Here you are. You're there.
I'd be happy to do them in Vegas. Oh my God.
Oh, the one man, one woman show.
Exactly.
Let's do a little bit more music. I'm dying to hear
Sure.
more of you. What could we do?
Oh, so much to choose from.
Oh, God, I can't even stand it.
Just go through the decades.
Well, how about a little bit of When in Rome, since we
heard
a little tease of that earlier.
Yes, okay. So let's see.
And we do love Rome. Have you performed
Yes.
in Rome?
No, I wish. I would love to perform in Rome.
No.
Or Italy in general, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. When in Spain, for reasons I don't explain, I remain enjoying a brew. Don't deplore my fondness for Fondador. You know how a Fondador can lead to a few. See, when I sang that with the Sondheim, that's I think on YouTube somewhere, and you can hear Nathan Lane introduce me, and you can hear me talking to Steve from the stage. Like, listen, Steve, you hear the audience laugh. It's great. But that's one that I recorded with Kay Ballard, and I had her like speaking Italian, and she was a great
Oh,
lady.
Kay
So
Ballard.
funny. She was so funny. Oh my God.
Maybe, are you keeping notes? Are you going to write a book?
I've been thinking seriously about it because, I read all sorts of showbiz books constantly. I mean, I just read Harvey Firestein's book. I'm reading a book by David Loud, wonderful conductor. And I have really great stories just about, not just even just about all the shows, but even just, the things I've lived through. If you live long enough, you've lived through a lot. So yeah, I think I should before I like forget.
I mean, who would you like to perform with that you haven't? Perhaps.
Oh gosh,
Anybody?
probably.
You seem to have done it pretty much all, but there's always
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah. I mean, I Hugh Jackman, that would be pretty great. And
Uh,
I think he has a great sense of humor. He'd probably really enjoy it. But
yeah,
I'd really like to perform with Barbara, a duet with her.
get it? You've heard it
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
and many
That
other.
would sort of be the ultimate, I think. Well, and also Carol Burnett, who I just is one of my very
Oh
favorites.
yeah. Well, did you
Um,
meet her through
she's
Peter
a-
Metz? Because Peter Metz did her
I
music.
didn't meet her through Peter Metz, but I met her a couple of times. She's wonderful. Just in fact, I just saw her. I was in Palm Springs, and I went to see this wonderful show. Debbie Gravitt and David Lawrence, who's the son of Stephen Eady, singing all the music of Stephen Eady. It was fantastic. In fact, they're doing it in New Jersey. I'm plugging their show. And Carol Burnett was backstage.
She was.
I could have spoken to her, but I'm still so in awe. I've spoken to her before, but
Uh,
it's
it's
hard to
hard.
be right near your
It's
idol.
hard
And
not
also it
to
was
be
still very COVIDy and mask, and you didn't want to be that close to,
right.
she's an
Of
older lady.
course. I
But
know.
I just think she's great, and I always loved her more than as an actress and a comedian. As a singer, I always loved her singing. I just thought she had the loveliest voice because she could either belt like Ethel Merman and then sing a beautiful, quiet. I just
Exactly.
love the quality of her singing. And she always said she always felt uncomfortable singing if it wasn't like as a character in a role, which is why she never did like an act or anything,
Right.
once she was famous. When she was
Right.
young, she did. But I just love Carol Burnett singing. I have all the albums that she's done, and her show is just my favorite thing in the world to watch.
I mean,
Once I was old enough to stay up and watch it when it
yeah.
moved to Wednesday at 8 o'clock, before it moved to
Full night.
Saturday. That's when I discovered her. Yeah.
Right. Terrible. Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I couldn't stay up for like the Academy Awards, and my father would write the winners on a
Uh,
blackboard in my room. So when I woke up, I saw who won, because they went on at 10 o'clock. I went until 1 a.m. Couldn't stay up that late.
exactly. And
I
now
don't know. Now maybe kids do stay up later. I wonder.
they don't watch. Right?
Yeah, they don't even watch it, right?
'Cause
Unless somebody getting slapped.
So how did you meet the great Peter Matz, who was a great friend of mine? And I met him. I told you I was
Yes.
on Beverly Boulevard pitching my audio cassettes, voiceover tapes, and his name was on the directory. I knocked, and there he was, and he was as nice as nice
Such a
could be.
talented man. Yeah. He came to my show, and then I
Did
think he wrote me a nice letter after that. And then he came to the show again. He and his
in Los
wonderful wife,
Angeles. Or
wonderful singer. Yeah, in Los Angeles. His wife was a wonderful singer. She had been in Hello Dolly with Mary Martin. And yeah, we became friendly after that. And I remember we were talking about coming over for dinner and stuff like that. And it's hard when you're in different cities and people are busy. And but yeah, he was a great guy, just so talented, and just again down to earth.
his
So
arrangement.
successful. I mean, he worked with Marlene Dietrich, in Las Vegas, and Carol Burnett show, and all the Barbara albums and movies, and he was just great. More people should know that name.
I know he's not a well known, and he was one of those genius
No.
arrangers.
And he also wrote, like a lot of arrangers. He was a composer too. He wrote "Gotta Move," one of Barbara's great songs.
Sing a little bit of that.
Oh, let's see. You need the bongos.
That's tough.
Gotta move, gotta get out, gotta leave this place. Gotta find some place, some other place, some brand new place, some place where each place. Anyway, that's gotta move.
Oh, I can hear the whole
In
background.
fact, I went, there was a movie called Defending Your Life with Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep.
Yes, yes, I
And
remember that movie.
when I saw that movie, you hear Barbara singing, I think, Gotta Move. Or something,
Really?
no, not Gotta Move, something that Peter Matz arranged. And I
Really?
remember calling him and telling him, that song is in the movie. And he didn't know.
You didn't know?
And I remember saying, I guess she gave them permission. And he went, she gave them permission. What about me? I think they were kind of estranged at that point, but then they made up later. So
Oh man. Oh,
that was, yeah,
credits, right?
yeah. I always stayed at the end credits of movies to see the little small,
Me
things.
too. I'm with
Music
you.
credits.
It's like everybody's leaving the room and I'm
Oh
still
no.
there, right?
Well, I don't want to miss like that extra that sometimes comes after the end credits in movies, because that was me. There's a movie called Camp, all about
Yes,
the
you were
acting
in.
camp. I'm in, but my scene was originally in the movie, and then they decided to put it after the end credits, so it's like a surprise at the very, very end. So some
Oh,
people
so some people,
don't
if they
see
don't
me.
wait, they don't see it, right?
Yeah, but if they look in the credits, I'm listed right after Stephen Sondheim in the credits. He's in the movie playing himself. Yeah,
Really?
yeah, that's a great movie.
Camp?
Camp, yes.
Now
And
what's,
it has several people in it that went on to become quite famous, like Anna Kendrick
oh
and
man,
Robin DeJesus, who sang with me, and what's the girl from Glee? There's a lot of future stars are in that film. It's a really fun movie.
now I have to find it.
Oh yes, you should.
Speaking
It's
of which,
great.
where did you go to camp? You mentioned camp.
Well, I went to the camp that's based on. That's how I was in the movie, because Todd Graff, the director, was at the camp with me. So was Felicity Huffman, but I don't remember her. We were all in Maine,
Maine.
and she was listed on my program in the chorus, but I have no memory of her. But of course, I remember Todd, because he was like a child actor. He was on the Electric Company, and then he was on Broadway in Baby. And he's sort of from a whole acting family, because his sister Eileen Graff was in I Love My Wife, and his cousin Randy Graff, she's now on Broadway opposite Billy
Yes.
Crystal. She's so talented. So yeah, I went to that camp 2 summers, and it was
Remember
fun.
the name?
Well, it eventually morphed into Stage Door Manor.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when I was there, I guess it was called Beginner's Showcase, and then it was Berkshire Showcase. It went through different incarnations. So
But
it was
camp, I
fun.
mean, I have such a love-hate
Do a
relationship with
show
camp.
in a week. Well, see, before that camp, I went to just a regular day camp, which I didn't like, because they made you like do non-theater stuff like sports, and I was like, no, thank you, I'm not
Archery,
interested.
swimming.
Although I found my way when they did plays, and I was cast as Rumpelstiltskin, and that's when I knew, oh,
That was-
okay, I need to
That
do
was
this. Yeah.
it. That was it. I
Yeah.
really have to find this movie. Is it available?
The camp, oh yeah, I'm sure it's streaming. It's on DVD, or
Okay.
it came out like in 2003, I want to say. But make sure it's the one by Todd Graff, because movies now, they can call 20 movies one.
Same title, of course.
Yeah, there was a series with Naomi Watts called Gypsy on Netflix. I'm like, oh, it's a new version of Gypsy. It's not
No,
Gypsy the
Not
musical.
at
It's,
all, right?
you can't copyright a title, I guess. You could write something called Gone with the Wind, and it'll get produced, and it's not Gone with the Wind at all. So yeah, make sure it's the Camp by Todd Graff.
Right. So, Stephen, one last hurrah of maybe you could just sing another few lines, and then we'll just
Sure.
close the show. I hate to
Okay.
close the show because such a
Oh, I
talent.
know what I could sing. She sang a song, a Beatles song actually, on an album called Good Night. I used to sing it at the end of shows, so it's, now it's time to say good night, sleep tight, whatever, yeah.
Yes, I
Depending
do
on where people
remember.
are listening and what time it is.
I do remember. That's a sweet ending to
Yeah,
our
yeah.
show. I love that. That's beautiful. Oh my God, it's so evocative and it's so nostalgic to hear these songs.
Yes.
And
It's the
anybody who
cream of
loves
the crop of
Barbara,
music, really
uh,
is. Her taste.
Yes, absolutely. So go hear Stephen Brinberg at 54 Below. Go to simply Barbara, BARBRA.com.
Yes, you'll see where else we're performing this year, like in Provincetown and hopefully back in London again. And I go wherever they want me. Available for bar mitzvahs and parties too.
Stephen Brinberg, thank you so much for being a guest on
Oh,
Mia's
thank
World.
you. It was so much
And
fun.
oh my God, we had a blast. I did. And Jade, thank you so much. Let's go out of the show with another Alan Broadbent song called Waltz Prelude. And it's a beautiful album called New York Notes. Alan Broadbent, happy birthday. Barbara Streisand, happy birthday. Stephen Brinberg, happy Passover.
Thank you. It was my birthday too last week.
Happy birthday, Stephen
I'm in
Brinberg.
April like Barbara, but a different sign.
Okay. Thank you again. And
Thank you.
thank you, Stephen. Here's
My
Alan
pleasure.
Broadbent. And have a great night. Thanks for entering
You
Mia's
too.
World.
Okay, it's a pleasure.